you repeat after me? Betty bought butter.
Betty bought butter.
But the butter was bitter.
But the butter was bitter.
So Betty bought better butter.
So Betty bought better butter.
To make the bitter butter better.
To make the bitter butter better.
Betty bought butter, but the butter was bitter.
Betty bought butter, but the butter was bitter.
So Betty bought better butter to make the bitter butter better.
So Betty bought better butter to make the bitter butter better.
Yeah, nice, nice. See how well that wine is doing on you guys. That's just one of the many exercises that we warm up our classes with at 171. I found that tongue twisters are a good intro to get the energy up and get them involved, and it's fun, it's rhythmic. So I run 2 tracks. In the fall, I run the audition prep workshop for the 8th graders who are auditioning for the performing arts high schools. We also do a after-school drama class, learning about the basics of drama. I think you were saying you were doing expo shows where you would do samples of different musicals. So that's that fall track in concurrently with the audition prep. And then in the spring, we do the musical. This year we're doing Fame, the musical. We've renamed it because we have to do our own individual adaptation of it. We're calling it Remember My Name. What can I tell you about that? Well, last year was my first year. We did an adaptation of In the Heights. We called it En El Barrio. And through that, I learned an immense amount about what it takes to put on a show with kids. Not only are we dealing with acting, singing, and dancing, which in and of itself is a huge lot to take on, but we're dealing with public schools. We're dealing with public schools in a lower to middle class community where, you know, kids have parents who have 2 or 3 jobs. They have 4 or 5 siblings. The school itself is going through expansion because some schools are closing down, so they're taking on another school. So all of a sudden you have 3 schools in one school, the auditorium is being used for 3 different things, the cafeterias are being used as gymnasiums. It's chaos, you know, there's new principals, now there's 2 principals. The guy who's running the after-school program has now given his responsibility to another guy, and that guy is working with this woman who has an office down here, there's an office up there. I mean, it is nuts, you guys, it is nuts. But through it all, we come down at 3:30 and we have our circle. And we have our exercises, and we have our tongue twisters, and we have our listening exercises, and we have Shay Shay Kool-Aid, and that gets us centered and gets us warmed up, and then we move into our rehearsals. And I think that, like for Nelson, a lot of these kids don't know why they're there, but they know that they want to be there. And what I'm trying to instill, not only just the performance aspect, is the professionalism aspect, the artist as a professional. Because if we are instilling that now at the 6th grade level, at the 7th grade level, they go into high school and they're taking AP classes because they want to be. Because they want to be responsible when they get out of high school. And to me, to see that, for instance, I had a student last year, Escarlyn Zapata. And she's a tall girl from the Dominican Republic. And she had this really thick accent. She wore a hat backwards and she was all, you know, she was street. And I think she joined because her friend was in it. And about 3 weeks in, I realized she had been there every day. She was reading the script intently. I had a guy drop out from being the father in the show, and I said, "Scarlett, would you want to be the dad?" She said, "Sure, yeah, that'd be great. I'll do this. And she was there everywhere. She was the only student I had that did not miss one rehearsal. She took over for this guy. She also did all the dance numbers, so she would take her costume off for the dad, and she would join in the dance numbers, and then she would go off stage and put on back on her dad costume. And she understudied the lead, one of the other leads. And unfortunately, she moved back to the Dominican Republic this year. But she came up to me afterwards, and unlike you, she had written a sequel to In the Heights. She was so into it, and she was just so enamored of the process that she ended up writing a complete sequel of what all these people went on to do. You know, it was amazing. So to tell you, I'm kind of illustrating all of this and then linking it to the audition prep program, because a lot of these 6th and 7th graders come into this thing because it's something to do after school. I like to dance, I like to sing, maybe I'll try this thing. And then by the time they get to the end of 7th grade and beginning of 8th grade, and they realize that they're going to have to go into this high school selection process, I'm like, well, I could go and be an actor. I could go be a singer and dancer. Maybe I'll take this workshop. And this audition prep workshop is I think for me is kind of my you know, I have the musical, but the coaching is where I get really intense, you know, because it takes a lot to get into these schools, and so you have to be disciplined, you have to be willing, you have to be committed, and I am proud to say, like Patricia said, I had two get in last year, and I had 2 get in this year, and I only had 2 people audition. You know, a lot of these kids don't have opportunities to perform or to sing. They can't go and take vocal training, vocal lessons, or go take dancing lessons because they can't afford it or they don't have access to it. So we are their access. And then through that, with the audition prep, is their access to the next level, which is the high schools.